What's up, everyone? I'm Tim, and this is my channel, 40 Times Around, where we talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. And today we're going to talk about how to make better vacation videos when you're traveling on your motorcycle, or maybe you want to make better moto vlogs. Today we're going to talk about some different camera tricks, some different camera angles you can use. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about how I'm getting this particular shot. I'm going to tell you guys at the end of this video, and we're going to jump into it right after this. Okay, so like I said, today we're going to talk about how to make better vacation videos when you're on a motorcycle trip, and who doesn't want to come home with a really awesome video to watch and remember their trip, you know? Even if you're just looking to do better moto vlogs, this will work for that too. I also wanted to share a few of my tips on how I make videos. Now, believe it or not, I've taken a lot of my old YouTube videos down because of copyright issues with music I was using when I first started my YouTube channel. So you probably haven't seen any of those, but there is this shorter one right here. I'll link to that shorter. I did 2 videos on my big trip a few years ago where I did 10,000 miles, 5-week trip. And this was before I knew about all of these different tricks that I've been playing around with recently, but it's nice to have a cool video to come home to and watch and remember your trip, like I said. So hopefully this will help you guys get better vacation videos. I think the number one thing you want to do is make sure you're getting as many different angles as you can and constantly be changing the angles up. Another thing too is like you want to make sure there's a reference point for your shot, for your image that you're capturing. Scenery is great, but if it looks like something I could have Googled to see a picture of, it doesn't have any meaning to me or anyone that you're going to show this video to. So what I mean by a reference point is some piece of the motorcycle or you or your helmet, something that makes me realize, oh, this has something to do with so-and-so. That's his bike, that's his helmet. So that would be like a reference point, right? Like all of these different shots. This one has me in it and a little bit of the bike. This one has mostly me in it. This one has some of the bike in it. And of course, this one has a little bit of me in it. And there's a few other camera angles I play around with too. It holds meaning because you know you're looking at me. Like there's a reference point on what exactly this image means. It's not just scenery, you know, which is beautiful. I mean, look at this scenery. I don't know if you could see that, but I mean, that's like pretty outrageous, right? And even if there was no piece of the bike in it, that's still beautiful for a minute, but you'd get bored of looking at that pretty quick. And that brings me to my next point, which is what I like to do when I'm traveling and I'm making a video about where I'm traveling. I like to treat any video clip as if I'm just taking a picture. I mean, like 15 seconds at the most. And this is a hard one for me, especially because, I mean, I'll be in so many beautiful places and I want to just record the whole thing. You know, it's so hard to be like, oh, this is all so beautiful. You know, how do I just take 15-second clips? But it kind of forces you to pick and choose like the best moments of the scenery that you want to remember, because what you don't want to do is come home from a 5-week trip with 20 hours worth of footage, you know, because chances are if you do come home from a trip like that, you're not going to put the time and effort into editing it because it's just going to be so daunting and overwhelming. It won't seem worth it. And you're less likely to actually follow through on putting together a good edit. And that's kind of a shame, you know, that's kind of a waste. So you're better off taking smaller clips. It'll make the editing project a lot easier. You know, you go out and you collect all these different building blocks that you're going to basically put together in a video. You don't need building blocks the size of a house if you're building a house with these blocks. You need them the size of a brick. So keep that in mind. Less is more. This looks like a good spot. Let's talk about these mounts. So like I said, now we're going to talk about some of these mounts. Now obviously everybody's bike is a little bit different. You're going to have to get a little creative on how this actually is going to work on your motorcycle. Some stuff obviously is universal, like for example the handlebar mount. And actually let's start with that. So the handlebar mount is nice. If you have it centered, you're not going to get a ton of background. If you are doing a moto vlog, that's a great shot. Makes people feel like they're really communicating with you. So that's a definite. One thing I used to do in some of my older videos was I would actually have it slightly off-centered and add an angle, and that way you would get more of the background behind me. So instead of it being like this, it would be more like this, and you would get some of that scenery off to the side. That's a nice, neat shot if you want, like I said, that reference point of, okay, this is so-and-so, and this is where he is. And that means a lot more to people that you're gonna show this video to. So that's the handlebar mount. That one's pretty straightforward. Okay, the second mount, probably the most obvious one, the one that most of you guys are probably already using, is the helmet mount. Now, a lot of helmets will have a vent right here. It's really tricky to get that perfectly centered camera shot where it's like very first person. You feel like you're on the bike when you're watching it. You could go with one on the top of the helmet. That's always an option. You can do the side mount. You're gonna get a little of the profile of the side of the helmet, but it works. It's not my preference. I like it to be, I like those shots to make the person that's watching it feel like they're right there with me, right there on my bike. And so what I did to get this mount on here, because the regular GoPro mounts, they're not gonna stick to this curved edge. And so what you can actually use is Sugru. Sugru is like it's almost like Play-Doh. It's a putty material, and it's moldable, it's malleable. You can shape it into whatever shape you need, and it's an adhesive, and it will harden, and basically it becomes like a hardened silicone once it sets. And this thing has been on here even in the rain, wind, everything else, vibration, and it's still on there. It's still holding up great. So if you're trying to do a mount like this, Sugru is a great way to do it. Now, I'm not going to do a whole video on this because it's pretty basic. I have mentioned this in another video, but MC Rider did a great video explaining how to use Sugru to do your motorcycle helmet mount. So you can check that out if that's something you want to do. So this is another new one I've been playing around with, and this one I picked up on Amazon for $26.99. So this one actually clamps. It's got 1, 2, 3 different pivots on it. Now, one thing I will say, fair warning, you have to really crank this down or it'll move, it'll eventually slide. Other than that, this thing is really great because it allows me to get a lot of creative shots. So this, for example, I have it pointing up at me. I can also point it forward, catching a little bit of the profile of the bike. I've actually attached it to the bottom crash bar, looking at the front tire as it's going through, bumps and rocks and stuff in different off-pavement scenarios. So this is a really great mount. You can actually put this on your handlebar too, and just get really creative with this one in particular. There's so many different applications you can use this for. If you're looking to get some different shots, I highly recommend purchasing something like this. I'll actually go ahead and leave a link to this exact one in the description box below if you want to check it out. And so I'm pretty sure this is the one most of you guys were pretty curious about, how I was getting this kind of off to the side clutch hand shot, and this can work brake side too. I had to get pretty creative with this one. It was a lot of research and scouring the internet looking for stuff that would work. I'm actually pretty proud of this setup and what I actually ended up finding. Now, the first piece you're gonna need is this right here. It's a flagpole mount for the back of a boat. If you've ever seen a boat with a flag coming out the back, this is what they're using. Super sturdy, really strong. Picked it up on Amazon for 25 bucks, or just under 25. I don't leave this on the bike. I only have it on when I'm filming, so I have a really easy to get to screwdriver, and it's literally 2 screws and a clamp, a plastic clamp, and this thing is, it's really sturdy. There's a little locking screw right here, and that just holds the selfie stick in place. And that brings me to the next piece of the puzzle, and that was a selfie stick. Really important with the selfie stick is that when it's extended, it doesn't spin. This one actually has tracks in it. So if the camera is set at this angle, it's going to stay at this angle. One thing I have found playing around with this is you don't want it extended too far. It'll tend to really bounce. As a matter of fact, if you're gonna go with this mount, you might wanna go with the GoPro Hero 7 Black, because the image stabilization is just unreal. And I remember the first day I took this camera out with this new mount that I was trying out, and I was watching as I was on the bike, and this thing's just going like this. And I'm like, that's great. That's gonna be a waste. I'm not gonna be able to use that footage. And sure enough, I used that footage, and I don't think anybody really noticed that it was bouncing like that. Again, I'll link to this exact selfie stick in the description box below. That way you make sure you get one that's locking if you're gonna try this setup. It pivots this way, which is nice. You can get just the right angle that way. It extends out about 3 feet, 4 feet, I think. But like I said, you're not gonna use that much because it'll bounce like crazy. Usually just far enough, maybe about, I'd say that's probably about 3 feet. Now another piece to the puzzle is that when this shows up, if you order this exact one, there's a base on here that will not fit in this flagpole mount. So you're gonna have to cut that off. I took a little hacksaw and I just took my time. And this is what it used to look like. Basically, all I did was just cut like this, rotate a little bit, cut like that, rotate a little bit, cut like that. And it's basically molded onto the base of this. Once you get enough of it off, the whole thing just kind of pops right off. And so that's how I'm doing that particular shot. It's a little bit of a project, but I think it is well worth it. You get some really interesting angles and some things that are, I think, haven't really been seen too much. So I've been really enjoying playing around with that. Now you can also mount this on the back of the bike behind you. I think that's a really interesting like third person perspective. Again, there's a lot you can do with this. You can even come straight off, perpendicular to the bike. So you're getting like a side profile of you on the bike riding with the scenery going by next to you. Lots of different things you can do with this mount. So this is a great way to get extra creative with your motorcycle travel videos. So that's kind of the setup. Now if you're going on your next big motorcycle adventure and you want to get some interesting footage to make a nice vacation video with, these will hopefully get you started. There are some really important things to remember though, and the number one thing is you have to be focused on the road. It has to be, that needs to be your main priority. Whether it be traffic or road conditions, you need to be focused. So my suggestion is you pull over, you get everything set up, and you just leave it. You just forget that it's even there. And you go and you ride like normal. Pay attention to what's going on, what you're doing. Don't be focused on the cameras. Don't be thinking about, is the angle right? Did the camera move? Don't worry about all of that stuff. Focus on the road and make sure above everything else that you're being safe when you're filming on a motorcycle. That's the big thing. And the second thing that you really need to focus on is that you're actually enjoying the trip and you're in the moment. You don't want to be so focused on filming and capturing your adventure in the best way possible that you miss out on the whole adventure. And it's like you were never there and you're watching this video thinking, I don't remember seeing that. You don't want to be in that situation. So make sure you just have fun. That's what it's really all about. Anyways, that's it. Those are my tips and tricks on how to make better vacation videos when you're riding your motorcycle, or vlogging if that happens to be the case. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything whenever I post something new about motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.